I am Reed. I am 27, just an average dude. I've made tons of money mistakes in my 20s, and now I want to share everything I've learned to help you take control of your finances and your life. Man, I cannot tell you how many times I sat on my couch at 22 just staring at the ceiling wondering what the hell I was doing with my life. I had a job that paid barely enough to cover my bills, and my credit card debt was piling up every single month. I was buying stuff I didn't need with money. I didn't have to impress people. I didn't even like classic, right? But the worst part wasn't the debt. The worst part was feeling like I had no direction. Like everyone else got this secret manual on how to be an adult, and I just missed the memo. I remember one night specifically, I was scrolling through Instagram and seeing all these guys my age traveling, starting businesses, looking like they had everything figured out. And there I was eating instant noodles for dinner because I blew my paycheck on a pair of sneakers I couldn't afford. I felt so lost, man, like I was drowning and nobody could see it. But here's what I learned the hard way. That feeling of being lost is not a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that you're at the beginning of a new chapter, and every single chapter in your life goes through 4 predictable phases. The limbo phase, where you don't know what to do. The vision phase, where an idea of what you want starts forming. The momentum phase, where you start acting and things actually start moving, and the flow phase, where everything just clicks and you can't pull yourself away from what you're doing. The problem is most people get stuck in limbo forever. Why? Because your whole life you've been trained to follow a script. Go to school, get good grades, get a job, save for retirement at 65, buy a house even though you can't really afford it. Keep your head down and do what you're told. That's the script. And when you step off that script and try to figure out your own path, your brain freaks out because Therese no roadmap. You feel lost and you interpret that as a bad sign. So you run back to the safe, predictable path even if it makes you miserable. I did that for like 2 years, man. I kept thinking, okay, maybe if I just get a better job or make more money, it'll feel better. But I didn't feel better. I felt more trapped because I was living a life that was designed by someone else. My parents, my teacher, society, all of them had this plan for me. And none of it was what I actually wanted. So here's the first thing I want you to understand if you're feeling lost right now. Give yourself permission to let your life get worse. I know that sounds crazy, but hear me out. When I first started getting my finances together, I was terrified of making things worse. I was so scared of making the wrong decision that I made no decision at all. I just kept doing the same thing, hoping something would magically change. And spoiler alert, nothing changed. But here's the thing I learned. You need a problem to solve. You need something to run away from just as much as you need something to run toward. So I sat down one night and I asked myself a really uncomfortable question. If I keep doing exactly what I'm doing right now, where am I going to end up in 5 years? I sat with that question for like an hour, man, and the answer was terrifying. I'd be in more debt, more stressed, and probably still eating instant noodles. I'd be 27 years old with nothing to show for it, and that thought scared me so bad that it finally gave me direction. I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want to be broke at 30. I didn't want to still be living paycheck to paycheck. I didn't want to have panic attacks every time I opened my bank account. And once I had that negative goal, it became so much easier to figure out what I actually needed to do. So step 1 is get clear on what you don't want, really sit with it, let that thought consume you. Because when you feel that fear of ending up in a bad place, it creates motivation that no positive goal can match. Once I realized I didn't want to be broke and miserable at 30, I was hungry to learn. I started reading books about money. I started watching videos about budgeting and investing. I started talking to people who were actually good with their finances. I consumed every piece of information I could find because I was desperate to avoid that future I had imagined. That's when things started to change. Within a few weeks, I had this vague idea of what I wanted my life to look like. Not a super clear, detailed plan, just a general direction. I knew I wanted to be debt-free. I knew I wanted to have some savings. I knew I wanted to feel like I was in control instead of feeling like money was controlling me, and that was enough to start moving. The next step is where most people mess up. They think they need to have this perfect, crystal clear vision of exactly what they want before they can take action. And that's just not true, man. You can have a general aim and start working toward it. You don't need to know exactly what you're doing as long as you're going in the right direction instead of the wrong one. For me, that meant starting small. I set up a budget for the first time in my life. I cut out all the dumb subscriptions I was paying for. I stopped eating out so much. I started cooking at home, which honestly was terrible at first, but I got better. I took the money I saved and threw it at my debt. Every extra dollar went to paying off those credit cards. And here's the thing about taking action. Once you start moving, even if it's small, your mind starts to shift. You stop feeling stuck because you're no longer just thinking about change, you're actually doing it. And that feeling alone is enough to keep you going. Now let me talk about something that changed everything for me. Gamifying your life. I know it sounds silly, but hear me out. When I was trying to get my finances together, it felt like this huge, overwhelming task. I had like $12,000 in credit card debt. My savings account was basically zero. I had no investments, no emergency fund, nothing. It felt impossible. So I broke it down like a video game. I set a main quest, get out of debt, then I set side quests. Build a $100 emergency fund, cut my spending by 20%, learn one new thing about investing every week. And every time I completed one of these little goals, I got a little hit of dopamine. It made the whole process feel less like torture and more like a game. I literally made a spreadsheet where I tracked my progress and gave myself little rewards. If I paid off a credit card, I would treat myself to a nice dinner or buy something I actually wanted. Not with borrowed money this time. And it worked, man. Within about 18 months, I was completely debt-free. I had 3 months of expenses saved up. I had started a small investment account, and I felt like I was finally in control of my life. The key is to create a hierarchy of goals. You need an end goal like financial independence or being debt-free. Then you need long-term goals like saving a certain amount by the end of the year. Then medium-term goals like cutting your spending by a certain amount each month. And then daily goals like cooking at home instead of ordering food or reading 10 pages of a personal finance book. And each of these goals feeds into the bigger one. So when you complete your daily task, you know you're making progress towards something real. You also need to set rules for yourself. For me, I decided I was not going to sacrifice my health or my relationships to save money. I was still going to see my friends and hang out. I just found cheaper ways to do it. Instead of going to expensive restaurants, we would cook together or go hiking. Instead of buying drinks at a bar, we would hang out at someone's apartment. I added constraints to my game, and that forced me to be creative. And honestly, those were some of the best memories I made in my early 20s. The other thing that helped me was creating what I call feedback loops. These are quantifiable tasks that let you see your progress. For me, it was checking my bank account balance every week. Watching that number go up even by a little bit was incredibly motivating. It was proof that what I was doing was working for someone else. It might be tracking how many days in a row they stuck to their budget or how much debt they paid off that month. You need something measurable so you can see that you're moving forward. Now let me talk about the biggest mistake I see people make. They spend too much time learning and not enough time doing. When I first started trying to get my life together, I spent weeks watching videos and reading books about personal finance. I thought I needed to know everything before I started. But that was just my brain making excuses. I was using learning as a way to avoid actually doing the hard work. I see this all the time with side hustles too. People want to start a business or make extra money, but they spend months researching the perfect idea and buying courses and planning everything out, and they never actually start. They're stuck in tutorial mode, and the truth is you learn by doing, not by studying. You can watch 100 videos about how to invest, but until you actually open a brokerage account and buy your first stock, you haven't learned anything real. So my advice is start before you're ready. Open that savings account, cancel that subscription you never use, sell the stuff you don't need on Facebook Marketplace, apply for that side gig, make mistakes, learn from them, adjust, keep moving. You will figure out what you want by trying things and seeing what sticks. You cannot correct an error that doesn't exist yet. The last thing I want to share is about staying at the edge of your comfort zone. When I first started my financial journey, I was so scared of making mistakes that I only did the safest things. I put my money in a regular savings account earning basically zero interest because I was too afraid to invest. And sure, I was safe, but I was also bored and not making real progress. I was staying in the areas I already knew and missing out on the growth that happens when you push yourself a little. On the flip side, if you jump into something way too advanced, you'll get overwhelmed and quit. If you try to day trade stocks with money you can't afford to lose, you're going to have a bad time. You need to find that sweet spot where the challenge is just slightly above your current skill level. Not so hard that it scares you, but not so easy that it bores you. For me, that meant starting with a simple index fund instead of trying to pick individual stocks. It meant learning about compound interest instead of options trading. It meant building a 3-month emergency fund before I even thought about investing more aggressively. I took small steps forward and gradually increased the challenge as I got more confident. And that kept me engaged and motivated instead of anxious or bored. I kept a journal during that time, and looking back at it now is wild. I wrote about how scared I was to make my first investment. It was only $200 into a boring index fund, but I remember checking that account every single day for like a week, just watching it go up and down by a few dollars. And over time, I got comfortable with the ups and downs. I learned to trust the process, and now investing is just a normal part of my life. So here's my challenge to you. If you're feeling lost or stuck right now, just pick one thing. One small step you can take today. Maybe it's checking your bank account and writing down what you spent last week. Maybe it's canceling one subscription. Maybe it's opening a high-yield savings account. Maybe it's just committing to not using your credit card for 1 week. Whatever it is, just start. The hardest part is always the beginning. But once you take that first step, the path starts to reveal itself. I spent my early 20s feeling lost, confused, and broke. I thought I was broken. I thought everyone else had it figured out and I was the only one struggling. But that was just my brain playing tricks on me. The truth is, most people in their 20s feel exactly the same way. The difference between people who break out of it and people who stay stuck is simple. The people who break out take action even when they're scared. They start before they're ready, they make mistakes, and they learn from them, and they keep going even when it feels like nothing is working. And that's what this whole channel is about, man. I'm not some financial expert with a degree from Harvard. I don't have a trust fund or a rich uncle who gave me $1 million. I'm just a regular guy who made a ton of mistakes and figured out how to turn things around. And if I can do it, you can too. I put all the links to the stuff I mentioned in the description, including the AI prompt I created that helps you turn your life into a video game. It's helped me stay on track, and I think ITL help you too. Also, I'm starting to post more regularly on Substack with deeper dives on everything from money to mindset to productivity. The link is down there as well. Thanks for watching, man. I really mean it. If this video helped you in any way, just know I appreciate you being here. Peace.